The Liu family had always been one of prestige and wealth. For generations, their ancestral home stood tall on a hill overlooking the small, mist-shrouded village of Anfang. It was a place of reverence and pride, until the day they decided to tear it down and build a grander house on the same land. It began innocently enough. Mr. Liu Kwok, the current patriarch, had returned from overseas with modern ambitions and a vision to rebuild the crumbling mansion of his ancestors. He hired the best architects, engineers, and laborers from the city. No one paid much attention to the whispers of the elders in the village, the old tales about the land being sacred, and how the family tombs beneath the house were not to be disturbed. Superstitions. Mr. Liu scoffed. We're living in the 21st century. But on the third day of construction, as the workers dug deeper into the foundation, they unearthed something strange. It was a small ceramic urn, blackened by time, sealed with wax and wrapped in red cloth. Ancient Chinese characters were etched into its surface, faded, but still legible. The foreman brought it to Mr. Liu. Concern etched into his face. What do you think it is, sir? Looks old, maybe even a burial item. Mr. Liu took the urn in his hands. It was cold, unnaturally so, and he swore he felt a faint tremble run through it. He glanced at the inscription. Though he couldn't read the older script fully, one phrase stood out, clear and ominous. Disturb the grave, and the bloodline shall perish. He laughed nervously and handed it back. Throw it out. It's just an old pot. The foreman hesitated. Sir, maybe we should consult someone. A monk, or a priest. Just in case. I said throw it out. Mr. Liu snapped, more forcefully this time. Don't let old superstitions delay our work. Reluctantly, the urn was discarded, tossed into a pile of rubble at the edge of the construction site. That night, the first of many strange things began to happen. The air inside the temporary house they were staying in grew heavy. Humid, even though the weather was cool. Doors creaked open on their own. Mirrors fogged up with handprints no one could explain. The family's youngest daughter, little Mai, began waking up screaming, claiming to see an old woman sitting at the foot of her bed, staring at her with hollow eyes. No one connected these things to the urn at first. Not even when the construction equipment began to malfunction. Not when the workers started quitting, one by one, complaining of nightmares, headaches, and feelings of being watched. And certainly not when the family's eldest aunt, Ba Lu Diem, collapsed suddenly during breakfast, her mouth foaming, her eyes rolling back as she whispered a single word over and over again. Grave, grave, grave. She died that evening. The doctor said it was a stroke. But the housemaids whispered otherwise. They claimed she had been cursed for violating something sacred. Still, the construction continued. Still, the urn remained forgotten. And the ground beneath the house, once a place of rest for generations of Liu ancestors, had been stirred. It was no longer at peace. It had been a week since Ba Lu Diem's unexpected death. The family mourned briefly, then moved on, too focused on finishing the new house to dwell on what they dismissed as coincidence. But the village was already stirring. Stories spread like wildfire. People began avoiding the construction site, crossing the road to the other side whenever they walked past. It's the urn, one old woman whispered at the market. They've angered the ancestors, said another, crossing herself. Inside the Liu household, the atmosphere grew tense. Unspoken dread clung to the air like a thick fog. Even the birds stopped nesting in the trees nearby. But Mr. Liu Kwok refused to let fear slow him down. Until his son fell ill. Liu Min, just 17, had been healthy, active, always cheerful, but one morning, he didn't come down for breakfast. The maid went to check and found him in bed, shivering violently. His skin pale and clammy, whispering incoherently. He's just got the flu, Mr. Liu insisted, but deep down, he knew something was wrong. Min's fever didn't respond to medicine. The family doctor, summoned in haste, checked him thoroughly, then frowned. His temperature is high, but his pulse is oddly slow. And these bruises, do you see this pattern? He pulled back Min's shirt to reveal strange, dark markings spreading across his chest. They looked almost like fingers, pressing from the inside out. Min's mother gasped. That night, Min began talking in his sleep. Not just mumbling, but full sentences, in a voice that was not his own. Deep, raspy, ancient. You have taken what is sacred. You have cracked the seal. You will answer. The room went ice cold. From then on, anyone who entered Min's room for more than a few minutes felt dizzy. Nauseous. One nurse fainted. Another claimed she saw a woman's reflection in the mirror behind her. Even though no one else was in the room, the family decided to move Min to a hospital in the city. But the moment the ambulance reached the village gates, all 4 tires burst simultaneously. The engine died. The lights went out. The driver later said it felt like something wrapped icy fingers around the vehicle and held it still. They brought Min back, and that night, something even worse happened. At exactly 3:03 a.m., every mirror in the house cracked. The windows slammed shut. The electricity failed, and Min sat up in bed, eyes completely white, and said, "You built on cursed bones. Now the bones will build on you." Then he collapsed, unconscious. The Liu family, terrified, could no longer ignore the signs. Something had been disturbed, something ancient, something sacred, and it was not finished with them yet. Sleep became a rare commodity in the Liu household. After Min's terrifying episode, the family took turns watching over him. But even those who stayed awake through the night reported strange occurrences, lights flickering, disembodied whispers, the sound of nails scratching wood behind the walls. Something unseen was moving through the house. Min, still unconscious, twitched in his sleep, whispering strange words in ancient dialects. Sometimes he cried, sometimes he laughed. And then, other family members began to suffer. First, it was Aunt Lan. She awoke screaming one night, clutching her throat, claiming she had been buried alive in her dreams. "They put me in a coffin," she sobbed, "and I couldn't move. I could hear them nailing it shut. I could smell the earth." Her husband, Uncle Gun, scoffed. "It's just nerves. We're all on edge." But the very next night, he woke up outside, lying face down on the mound where the urn had first been found. His fingers were covered in fresh soil. He had no memory of how he got there. The family decided to halt all construction, finally acknowledging that something was deeply wrong. They moved Min to the temple at the edge of the village, hoping spiritual energy might help. But the monks there refused to take him in. "He carries something with him," the abbot said, his voice shaking. "A spirit far older than any we have encountered. And it is angry." Meanwhile, the dreams spread through the household. The children began talking in their sleep, mumbling about underground tunnels, rotting hands, and the woman with no eyes. The youngest child, Bei Na, drew a picture of a blackened figure standing beneath the new house. Its hands stretched up through the foundation, reaching for the family above. One night, a servant named Dung, who had mocked the family's fear, was found dead at the bottom of the basement stairs. His neck was broken, his eyes wide open in terror. His fingernails were torn, as if he had tried to claw his way out of something. But the door had never been closed. When they lifted his body, they discovered something underneath the floorboards. An old, wooden tablet. It was weathered with time, soaked in dark stains, but the carving on it was clear. A family crest, a phoenix in flames, and the words, "Rest not disturbed, blood for bone, lineage for legacy." Mrs. Liu, trembling, whispered, That's our ancestral crest." Panic erupted. The elders gathered and admitted what many had suspected. The house had been built directly over the old family tomb. Generations of ancestors were buried there, long before the original house was erected. The urn thrown away had likely been a seal, a warning, a protection. It had been broken. Now, something buried had awakened, and it was crawling closer. The Liu family no longer spoke above a whisper. Fear hung over their mansion like a suffocating veil. Servants had fled. The construction company had withdrawn without notice. Even the villagers, once eager to curry favor with the powerful clan, now averted their eyes and crossed themselves when they passed the estate. But it wasn't just the fear of ghosts anymore. It was the feeling, like the ground itself was watching them. Mr. Liu Kwok stood on the balcony of the unfinished house one morning. staring out at the mist-covered garden. The trees had withered unnaturally fast. Their leaves blackened, as if poisoned. The koi in the family pond floated belly up, eyes clouded white. Then he saw it. A figure, tall, draped in white, standing just beyond the trees, staring up at him. But when he blinked, it was gone. That same day, old Ong Fuk, the former groundskeeper, came to the estate. The man was nearly blind, his hands gnarled with age. He walked with a cane and a prayer string wrapped tight around his wrist. The family hadn't seen him in years. "I heard what's been happening," he said. "You've angered something ancient." "We know," Mrs. Liu whispered. "Please, what do we do?" Ong Fuk sat down and told them the story. "Long ago, before even your great-grandfather built the first house, this land was chosen carefully. A sacred Feng Shui site, where the dragon veins of the earth converge. Your ancestors knew its power. That's why they buried your clan's most powerful members here, and sealed it with rituals. That urn you threw away? It wasn't just a warning. It was a lock." The room fell silent. "The seal is broken," he continued. "The dead are no longer bound. They're confused, angry, hungry." That night, something stirred beneath the house again. Mrs. Liu, unable to sleep, heard a scratching, soft at first, like rats, then louder, fingernails, scraping at the underside of the wooden floor near her bed. When she crept down with a flashlight, the light flickered, and from the floorboards, she heard a voice. "Return what was taken, or become what was buried." She screamed. By morning, every mirror in the house had shattered. The family shrine had been overturned. Min, still unconscious, had blood seeping from his nose and ears, his chest rising and falling in shallow gasps. That same morning, one of the construction workers, now working a town away, was found dead in his sleep. His eyes had turned to ash. No wounds, no signs of struggle, just a single blackened fingerprint on his chest. The Liu family knew there was no more time. Mr. Liu Kwok picked up the phone and made the call. "Find me the best Feng Shui master in the country," he said. "We need to move the grave, before we become a part of it." He arrived just after dusk. An old man, draped in a black robe with silver thread embroidered along the sleeves, stepped from a modest car at the edge of the Liu estate. His face was lined with deep age, yet his eyes, sharp, hawk-like, pierced through the gloom as if they could see the spirits hidden within. His name was Master Tran Bin. He refused to be greeted, refused food, refused comfort. "The spirits are listening," he said coldly. "I will not waste time." Master Tran was not like the usual monks the Liu family had seen in passing. He carried no soft chants, no smiles. His tools were strange, ancient scrolls, a compass the size of a plate, iron coins with holes in the center, and a bowl filled with red threads soaked in wine and blood. He began by walking the perimeter of the estate, barefoot, muttering in a dialect no one understood. Wherever he passed, dogs in the village howled. The wind picked up, shadows slithered unnaturally across the walls. By nightfall, he returned to the main hall, eyes dark. "You built over the resting place of 3 generations," he said. "The center point, what you call your living room, was once the heart of their burial mound. That urn was the final seal to prevent spiritual overflow. It wasn't meant to be touched." Mrs. Liu was trembling. "Can you undo it?" Master Tran looked toward Min's room. "No," he replied, "but I can contain it." The ritual began at midnight. Incense thickened the air. Candles were placed at the 4 spiritual gates of the property, north, south, east, west. At the center of the house, Master Tran began chanting. The family watched in silence as he drew symbols with ash and pig's blood. He sprinkled the red thread wine across the floor, muttering invocations that made the air pulse with energy. And then, a scream. Not from Min, not from any living person. From beneath the floor, the ground shuddered. Hairline cracks spread across the tiles. The candles blew inward, though there was no wind. And suddenly, black smoke began to rise between the wooden planks. It took shape, first fingers, then arms, then the twisted face of a woman. Her mouth wide, her eyes hollow and leaking black tears. She reached for Master Tran, who did not flinch. He flung a paper talisman into the air and struck it with the flat of his palm. It ignited mid-air, bursting in blue flame, and the apparition let out an unholy shriek, vanishing into the floor in a swirl of ash. The spirits do not want peace, Master Tran said, but they will accept relocation, if it is done with proper rites. The family gathered at the edge of the estate the next morning. The old grave had to be excavated. Beneath layers of stone and roots, they found bones, stacked unnaturally, bent at angles that suggested the dead had not been buried properly. The skulls were still intact. So were the ropes. They had been tied, buried alive. The truth settled on the family like frostbite. At some point in the past, one of their ancestors had sacrificed kin for fortune, burying them beneath the land, using blood and terror as a key to unlock prosperity. And now, that blood debt was being collected. The morning of the relocation, fog rolled in unnaturally thick. The graveyard plot Master Tran had chosen lay outside the village, nestled at the foot of a forgotten hill where the earth hummed with old energy. It was here the ancestors were to be moved. But the spirits did not rest quietly. As the coffins, what remained of the broken, knotted bones, were lifted from beneath the cursed house, the sky darkened, not from clouds, but from flocks of black crows that circled overhead, screaming. The air smelled of rotting wood and bitter iron. Min had not woken, still as death. His body remained cold, lips faintly blue. Every hour, another crack appeared in the walls of the Lu estate. Master Tran set up the altar beside the new gravesite. Red paper talismans fluttered from the trees like dying leaves. A shallow trench was dug, wide enough to fit all the spirits that had been wronged. Then he said the words that silenced everyone. "This will not work, without an offering." "What kind of offering?" Mr. Lu whispered, dreading the answer. Master Tran's voice was grave. "A living heart, of bloodline descent, a trade, life for lineage." Gasps spread. No one moved. "No." Mrs. Lu choked out. You can't mean Min." But Master Tran did not reply. He simply pointed to the urn, the one they had thrown out and recovered from the trash heap. Now sealed and ready once more. Suddenly, Min's body convulsed. His back arched, and from his mouth came a voice that was not his own. "Do not move us. We are owed. We were betrayed. If one of you does not pay, all of you will." A storm rolled in from the horizon, dark. Boiling clouds with red veins of lightning. The ground trembled, cracks split open, and from them, hands began to emerge, ghostly, skeletal, clawing for the living. The family screamed, scrambled, wind howled. A child was nearly dragged into the earth, saved only by Master Tran's chant flaring to life. And then, a cry pierced the storm. It was Mr. Lu Kwok. Without hesitation, he rushed forward, pulled the dagger from Master Tran's altar, and plunged it into his own chest. "Take me," he gasped, collapsing beside the old bones of his ancestors. Let the boy live, let the curse end. As his blood soaked into the soil, the wind stopped, the hands froze, the fog pulled back, and in the silence that followed, the earth accepted the trade. The urn glowed a deep crimson, then faded. The ground closed. The bones were buried again, this time with honor, prayers, and offerings. Back at the estate, Min awoke, eyes blinking, breath steady, free. Epilogue. The Lu estate was never rebuilt. The remaining family left the village. The old house crumbled, reclaimed by weeds and silence. But the graves at the foot of the hill remain tended. Always. Offerings appear like clockwork, joss sticks, folded paper, fruit left under moonlight. No one speaks of the curse anymore. But the villagers still say, on certain nights, if you walk too close to the place where the old mansion once stood, you can hear whispers in the soil, and feel eyes watching from beneath your feet.